So in this video I wanted to describe why it's important to loosen the brake reservoir cap when you're doing a brake job on your vehicle. Over the years we've done like a ton of brake jobs in my father's auto body shop, and it's always good practice to loosen the cap, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Before we roll into that, remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you get all of our latest uploads, and if you have a comment or a question, leave a comment or a question and we'll reply back to you. Even if you have a great tip, we'll add it in as well. So I can't tell you how many guys I've seen do brake jobs on the internet, show people how to do brake jobs. They don't loosen the cap on the master cylinder to relieve the pressure. It drives me nuts. You should release the cap on the master cylinder. You don't have to take it all the way off. You can loosen it and just leave it on top of there when you're doing a brake job. The reason why is when you compress the brake caliper in with the C-clamp to take the old pads off and to put the new pads on, you have to compress the caliper in all the way because the new pads are going to be thicker, so you have to allow room for the new pads over the brake rotor. So what happens when you loosen the cap on the reservoir on the master cylinder is when you press the brake caliper in, it'll help to relieve some pressure that could be built up in the system. Check the fluid level before you do the brake job. If it's filled up to almost the top, you may want to take a little bit of brake fluid out, because some brake fluid might come out of the brake line and then back into the master cylinder, raising the level. I've never really had it happen to me where it's spilt all over. I'm usually pretty careful, I'll check in there before I do a brake job, but it's something to watch out for. What also could happen too is if you have an older vehicle, like an old Jeep. I've got an '89 Wrangler, and doing the brakes on that thing could be tricky. And but what could happen is if you leave the pressure in the system and you don't loosen the cap up, and it starts to build up as you squeeze the caliper piston in to take the old pads off, it could actually build up line. It could build up pressure in the brake line, and if it's an old brake line that has a lot of rust on it, you could blow out a brake line. Well, with that said, if you have an old cruddy dry rotted flex hose on your caliper, that could blow it as well. So just something to watch out for, and it's just a good added measure to do when you're doing a brake job. So right now I'll show you, on this vehicle where the master cylinder is and how to loosen the cap. So it's really just a 2-second thing. Just come over and loosen the cap on the reservoir. I can see my fluid levels down there, so if I were to do a brake job, it'd have quite a bit of room to rise if it had to. So it would more than likely be okay. And what you can do is you can do one brake at a time. Check the level, make sure it's not coming up too far that it might spill out. So what you could do is do one side of the car at a time. Squeeze the caliper piston in with your C-clamp or whatever you're using. Put the new brake pads on, set it on top of the brake rotor. Go check the fluid level in the in the master cylinder. Make sure it's okay. If it's coming up too high, then you might want to take a little bit out. Go to the other side of the car. Perform your work on the other side of the car. Button everything back up. Then come back over and just make sure that the brake fluid is where it's at. When you're doing a brake job, before you drive the vehicle, you always want to get in the vehicle, pump the brakes up to make sure you have a nice firm brake pedal. Then come back out, check the fluid level again, make sure it's at the recommended level, and you should be okay to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Now you understand why it's important to loosen the cap on the master cylinder when you're doing a brake job. And some people, they just don't do it, but it's a 2-second thing, and it can help prevent like a lot of headaches. So I like to do it when I'm doing a brake job. Never had an issue doing them that way, and knock on wood, I won't. So if you have any questions, leave us a comment. We'll reply back, and subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Hope to see you guys soon. Take it easy.